Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. The repression of the feminine has led to a planet on the edge of collapse. The re-emergence is going to be a dance to behold. These are the words of Claire Dakin. The sacred masculine knows that the extent to which he brings union to the divine twin flame masculine and feminine energies within himself determines his own authentic power and self-realization. He knows that he is to honor and bring balance to the feminine principles of what it is to be human, like stillness, receptivity, opening, allowing, and surrender, as well as the more masculine energies of action, solving, giving, and pursuing. He honors the feminine in all her manifestations as the living earth, creativity, and perhaps most of all, woman herself. Hello, and welcome to the final episode of the Bring Him Home Sacred Masculinity Rising podcast series. This is our time and space to explore principles, stories, and experiences of what it looks like to embody and walk the road of the sacred masculine. My name is Miguel Dean, and I am the author of Bring Him Home, a twin flame love story. This is my true story of a conscious, passionate, loving relationship with an extraordinary woman, and how it played a significant role in the rising of my own sacred masculinity and the courageous journey I embarked on from my head back to my heart. My intention is that through sharing my personal love story in the book and creating this podcast series, I will provide the readers and listeners with ideas of how they can catalyse their own journey to sacred masculinity. And this will in turn facilitate the divine twin flame union within the hearts of many men and women, so that we can create a more beautiful world for our children and the generations to come. Find out more about my book and the rest of my work at my website, migueldean.net. So, here we are. Let's get started on the final principle which we're going to touch on today, which focuses on the divine feminine. So, there's a reason why I left this one to last, because in a way this is the most powerful and the most profound of the principles for me personally. You see, as I may have mentioned, my mother died when I was just a baby, when I was 7 months old, and that left a deep wound inside me. I'd experienced love for about 7 months of my life from my mother, from the embodiment of the divine feminine. And then all of a sudden, it was gone. What this did for me was it set me up really to go in search of that which I had lost. Because although my father remarried, the woman that he chose turned out to be quite abusive and violent and aggressive, and she wasn't in her feminine at all. So I didn't have really any other experience of what it was to be with the feminine. That gentleness, that kindness, that loving, warm embrace of woman was alien to me. So as you can imagine, when I became a young man, I set out in search of that, not really consciously, but unconsciously, through my relationships, through my romantic relationships with women. But what happened was that time and time again, things became really challenging and difficult, because what was happening was it was the little boy inside me that was trying to have a relationship with a woman. And there was this kind of child and mother dynamic all the time. And I was needy and controlling, because I was scared all the time that the divine feminine, through the embodiment of my lover, was going to leave me. So what transpired was that most of my relationships, well, all of my relationships came to an end. And I was left in this desolate place where I never felt really complete unto myself. I was looking on the outside to try and heal and fill what was missing on the inside. So what eventually happened was that I began to look inside myself for that divine feminine. Real changes are always an inside job. And although the world teaches us to look outside, that, more money or the right partner or the right place to live or the right friends or the right possessions will bring us happiness, it's always an inside job. And that happiness was elusive for me, because I was searching unconsciously for the divine feminine inside myself. So I reached a point where I'd had enough. I'd had enough of the ends of relationships. I'd got divorced from the mother of my children, and although it was amicable, it was still an ending, which I, wish hadn't have happened, because it meant that I had to not be there as all the time as I wanted to be physically for my sons. They came and stayed with me regularly, and I lived very close by while they grew up. But it wasn't what I would have chosen. So the time came when I met a woman, and she was, I just fell head over heels in love with her. And I said to myself, right, I put my sword in the ground and I stay here, and I will do whatever it takes to be with this woman. This is the point of no return. I'm not running anymore. Because for much of my life, I'd got stoned, or, I got busy, or I distracted myself in different ways from really addressing that wound that was inside myself. But this woman that I'd met, I was just so in love with her that I was scared that the same old patterns were going to come up. But I said, okay, this time I make that journey from my head back to my heart. And whatever pain or whatever I need to face, I'm not turning away from this time. So that was what happened. Life said, okay, he's ready now, let's bring it on. And this woman, this beautiful woman, through our twin flame relationship, she kept leaving me. We kept separating, and that triggered this childhood trauma inside me of abandonment and being left. And it was the cleaning out of me. It was me to being taken through the fire of love until that wound was completely healed. And I kept staying with it. I stayed with her. We kept coming back together, because on some level I knew what was happening. And that was the book that I wrote and that I mentioned at the beginning and the end of these podcast series. Bring Him Home, a twin flame love story. What a powerful adventure. And because I wanted to share, what it is to, the power of conscious relationships to bring us home to our sacred masculinity, the power of the divine feminine in all her manifestations. And she is manifest in nature, Mother Earth. If you like, the masculine, the sacred masculine energy is consciousness itself. But it is this miracle that happens, that from consciousness, everything arises. Everything is created, and that is the feminine energy, this creativity, this arising, this constant birthing, which we see in nature all the time, which is also represented or manifests through creativity. when we draw something or paint or dance or photograph or any sort of creation that we make that comes into existence is an expression of the divine feminine energy. But what became really big for me was this realization that the divine feminine is to be brought back into balance, because we've lived in a world where the feminine has been denigrated, where masculine principles have been put on a pedestal, and we've been ruled by patriarchy for many years, for many generations. And look where that's got the world. As the quote at the beginning of this episode mentions, brought the planet to the edge of collapse. So now is a time for balance, and that is a balance inside of ourselves, balancing those male and female energies, as well as honoring and revering that manifestation of the earth, creativity, and woman herself. So there are a few different ways that I have discovered to nourish and feed that internal feminine within myself. When the question arose, how do I find the feminine? And rather than looking at it outside from a woman, from a relationship to heal me, to complete me. And part of that realization was the expression of my creativity, which I do through my poems and my blogs and the books that I write. Allowing my creativity as we become in tune with our feminine inside ourselves, our creativity seems to flow more. That's certainly what happened for me. I went to a conference called the Goddess Conference in Glastonbury in the UK, and I was immersed in this divine feminine energy for the week that I was there. It's like my masculine brain was totally taken offline, and I was in this altered state of consciousness for a week. I just received this download of divine feminine energy. And when I came back from that conference, all this creativity started moving through me, and I couldn't stop writing. And people were writing back to me and saying that they were having powerful experiences as a result of reading the words or hearing the words that I spoke in the talks and interviews that I gave. So honoring creativity and honoring this sacred planet. This is the way of the sacred masculine. Minimizing the harm that he does in the way that he lives upon the planet, the choices of the things that he buys, the food that he eats, the way that he travels from A to B. Honoring the planet, the divine feminine in expression as Mother Nature. Because she feeds us, she nourishes us. Everything that we have comes from Mother Earth. These computers, these phones, the car, the oil, the electricity, everything, as well as the more obvious natural things, like the wooden things that are created. She is to be honored in all of her manifestations. And finding that feminine within me and getting in touch with that, as well as the creativity, was just some more general things. Like, I just found that I wanted to listen to sort of gentle, healing, feminine voices and mantra and music that just soothed me. The way that we nourish ourselves, cooking myself nice food. This is a very feminine thing. Eating good food, healthy food, making my home beautiful, beautiful pictures and plants, and clean and smelling sweet. Taking care of myself, nurturing myself, being the mother to myself that I never had. Bathing, long soaks with some oils and some nice music and some low light, and just allowing that. Some of these are ways that perhaps you can nurture and honor the divine feminine within you and bring that into balance with your masculine. And this is regardless of gender, this is whether you're a man or a woman. So Honoring the divine feminine in all her manifestations. And a part of this for me is when I'm holding space, when I'm working with my clients in my sacred masculine healing sessions on a one-to-one basis, I'm holding space for them. And the feedback that I get is things change and things evolve and they heal because they've never experienced being held by such a strong and yet tender energy, to be heard, to be listened, but to be held strongly as well. I'm not wobbled. They share whatever they want to share. And this is what it is for man to be able to hold space for woman, for the masculine to hold space for the feminine. Because man, if we like, has this physical advantage over woman, that he is physically stronger, he has denser bones and bigger muscles, a different structure. That is there for the protection of woman and the children and the vulnerable. That is our role as sacred masculine, to protect and to hold space and to keep safe, whether that be physically or energetically. It was always the way in the tribes, the primitive ancestors. The man protected the women and children of the tribe from wild animals or other tribes or whatever. That is his role. And in many ways that has got perverted in this society, and man has used his strength to abuse the feminine and to take advantage of her less physical strength. Of course, she makes up for it in many other ways. And the biggest way that woman makes up for the fact that she doesn't have the physical strength is that she has the gift of giving birth, of manifesting life. And that is all the more reason for the sacred masculine, for man to protect and take care of her. She is the bringer forth of life. She ensures a future. So the sacred masculine knows that his role in all the different ways is to honor the divine feminine. I allude to this a lot in my poem, which is called The Wooden Fence, which I'll share with you now. I am a wooden fence to keep you safe. A magic fence that does not constrain you and from which you may leave at any time. No harm can come to you while I surround you, and if you choose, I will move with you wherever you go. I am a fence on a high plateau, and through my arms is a stunning view. The grass where you lay is soft, warm, and mossy, and the earth holds you gently in her loving embrace. And I am a fence to keep you safe while you hum gently to yourself and plait your hair and dream in your heart's desires. I am a fence because it is all that I can be. When fear comes roaming, it will not stay long, for fear is no match for a fence such as me. I will move in close and embrace you tenderly and stroke your hair when your holy tears of surrender fall to bless the sacred earth. And I am a fence to witness your rising when sweet release has cleaned you out. I shall behold your dance and hear the sweet song of your heart. I am a fence that shudders in awe at the magnificence of your strength, your courage, your softness, your exquisite beauty. Maiden, mother, lover, crone, I am honoured and blessed to serve you all, for I am a wooden fence to keep you safe. The sacred masculine sees his role as protector of all manifestations of the divine feminine, which includes creativity and Mother Earth, as well as woman herself. He is in service and in reverence of her, the bringer of life. So for the last time in this series, I'll share the blessing, which is so dear to the sacred masculine, from the front of my book, Bring Him Home, a twin flame love story. May the energy of this podcast be a catalyst for the union of the divine feminine and masculine energies within the hearts of all men and women. May we have the willingness and determination to make the journey from our heads back to our hearts. May we learn to father and mother ourselves and take care of our inner child. And may we remember what it is to love ourselves, each other, all sentient beings, and this sacred earth, for ourselves, our children, and the generations to come. Thank you for joining me today and throughout this podcast series. I trust that you now have some new insights around the principles of sacred masculinity. A wise man once said that knowledge alone is without power, but the application of knowledge is where power lies. So your task is to integrate some of the wisdom that I've shared with you in your lives. I wish you all the best. And if you need some help, you can find links to my sacred masculine healing sessions that work through video calls with people all over the world. You can find those on my website, migueldean.net. The world needs the sacred masculine to step up. Now is a good time to do this work. I am Miguel Dean, catalyzing the twin flame union of divine masculine and feminine energies within the hearts of men and women. I'm the author of my new book, Bring Him Home, a twin flame love story, published by Sacred Stories and available online through Amazon and booksellers worldwide. Thank you for joining me in this Bring Him Home, Sacred Masculinity Rising podcast series. Perhaps I'll see you on the road. Be well. Aho.